been in a really weird state lately. I think the best way that I can describe it is like limbo. And if I had to put it into words, I feel like it's knowing what I need to do, but having a weird reluctance to do it. Like, I guess the best way that I could probably get it across is like in a metaphor. I would say it's as if there's a path that leads to like everything that I could ever want in life ever. But then I just like, and I'm aware of it and I know like how to get to it, but then I just don't take the path. I just like stand there and be complacent. But I think I'm not like too concerned with it. I feel like I'm somewhat coming out of it now, but I also realize the further that I get along in my development that there have to be periods where you're kind of stagnant. And I don't even think you can really override those. I think they're just a part of life. Because if you were constantly improving and constantly moving on the path forward, you know, people would just get to that point and ascend or achieve enlightenment very quickly. But I feel like there's kind of like these blocks that are put into place most of the time. But maybe that's just like a limiting belief that I have, and I can circumvent that by, you know, getting rid of the belief. But today I wanted to talk about kind of like humans trying to intellectualize everything and how I kind of feel like there's another way of living, but it's very obscure, and I feel like it's very taboo, especially in America, because America is obviously like material society and also intellectual society. Like knowledge and intellect are very valued here, and they're kind of like put on this pedestal. In fact, in most general societies, it is like, go to school, you're an accomplished person if you have a degree. The more you know is the more value that you have. But I think that there is like a really clear division between not like intellect and wisdom. I think wisdom is like learned experience. It's experience in general. It's gaining that insight through doing actions, through performing actions, instead of just, you know, like reading a book or knowing something. Like being able to apply what you know is so much more valuable than just knowing things. And I think as humans, we run into an issue, and I've especially had to deal with this lately, where we just want to know everything. We have this insatiable desire to be as smart as possible. And, you know, everything needs a meaning, and we need to know the mechanisms behind everything. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to move away from. But it's hard because it's like there's so many things out there that try to steer you in the other path. They're like, oh, if you know how to make a bunch of money, you're going to be successful. If you understand how to go into social interactions and be more likable, then you're going to be a better person. And it's like, what if we reduce? What if we go back to, hey, I'm just living in the world. I don't need to understand how everything works. So the main point is kind of goes back to us giving meaning to everything. You know, let's say that there isn't a cycle or a function of everything in nature. Like, as humans, again, it's like, okay, what is the function of death? Like why do we die? And it's like, maybe there doesn't need to be a reason for death. Maybe death just happens. And I think that something like really beautiful happens when you can look at something and not try to conceptualize it and not try to put it in this box and try to like be like, this is the function it performs, this is what it is. My hand is, I can describe it, but my hand just is. It doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to align with these characteristics that I give it. It just is. So that's kind of just like going through life, and instead of your ego trying to conceptualize or trying to intellectualize the things that you see or the things that happen to you or other people, you just kind of let it be. You just simply leave it as it is. And I think that that's kind of where spiritual practices come in, where it kind of leaves this like little time gap before your conceptualization. If you don't have control over your mind, something's going to happen to you and you're immediately going to put judgments upon it, as like good or bad, or like, what does this mean for me? Would I want that to happen again? And then when you can take a step back and like really be in that driver or be in the passenger seat and have that like calmness and control over your mind, you can recognize when those thoughts or those judgments arise, and you can kind of separate yourself from them. So I think that's like one of the most important parts of a spiritual practice. And I think it's like a key point that you have to like cross over. And I think like anything else, it's kind of just a process of unlearning the things that like we've been conditioned into. But it's just so hard because everyone else is like, these things are good, or like this provides external value. You have more value as a person in the world. Objectively, like people are going to see you more valuable. So you kind of have to, dial it back and like take the L, even though it's a better thing, in my opinion, in the long run, to just kind of like, sweep away that desire for understanding. And I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where we kind of just exist and we're not there. Like, I think there was this video that I was watching, and it was like, when you invent new technology, something gets lost. So it's like when writing was invented and forms of communication, written forms of communication were invented, now memory isn't as sharp, and we kind of like rely on this thing as a crutch. Even when language was invented, probably like nonverbal communication and I guess like vibes are less understood and less important to people, because it's like, okay, if I can just tell you what I'm thinking, now you don't have to interpret what I'm thinking, and you don't have to like pay as much attention to my body language or my like hand signals or whatever it is. So it's like every time we get further into technological advancements, we kind of lose a bit of that, like that source, that like just experiencing things as it is. So I don't know. It's hard. It feels like a game that you're playing on like the hardest difficulty, where just like everything is stacked against you. But the nice thing is you can always choose to, go the path that you want. You can choose freedom. You can choose love. You can choose blocking out the nonsense that is false information. And I think once you recognize the distinct difference between like the lies and the truth. That's all you really need, because your spirit is gonna move itself towards freedom at the end of the day, because it's like that's all every being really wants. So peace out.